welcome to the Science Faction Podcast, where science meets fact meets fiction.
This is Science Faction for the week of March 16th, 2025. I'm one of your hosts, Steven Dominguez, and with me today, two people that are helping raise me from the dead.
What's up? I'm Benjamin Daniel Lawless, doing all I can. Pretending I'm Superman.
It's too early, and there's not enough caffeine for you to be making ska references.
Hey, if there's anything that's going to raise anybody from the dead, it's ska.
You're right. That's a good. We gotta introduce the ska necromancer.
That's right.
Just dancing around with a bunch of bones and
ska-cromancer
and horns, bones and horns. I heard Devon's here as well. Hi, Devon.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
Oh man, look at that. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's living in the future.
My man.
Well, so Jen and the kids were gonna go on vacation for a week with Jen's sister and her kids, which they do on spring break like every year. But so everybody was ready to go this morning, but Jen's sister is sick, so they're waiting to see if she feels better. So they're all still here.
Oh, geez.
So that's why you're happy?
No, that's what's going on with me.
Thanks.
But no, I'm not. No.
Wait,
Am I happy? I guess I was trying
Devon.
to get I was trying to be podcast me so that I could be more engaging.
Okay. So hold on. You were about to have a week. Was it like a week with no wife and kids?
Yeah.
So what's your plan, man? What are you gonna do for a week with no wife and kids besides work? Boring.
Yeah, work. I didn't have any particular plans. I think I'm kind of part of a game group now. We get together like every other week, and I think we're gonna game on tomorrow, Monday, Thursday. I mean, you guys and I were doing something.
Oh, that's why you were so like, yeah, I'll do that. I get it now.
Didn't have to ask anybody.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me. So this is kind of funny. My buddy my buddy Greg, who last week I said I trounced in Marvel Crisis Protocol. Yeah, he called me out on the Discord. I was like, oh really? You're so good at it. I mean, that's not exactly what he said, but and I was like, ha 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 ha. He's really good at games. So like for me to win, it's kind of a big deal because usually we play, we have fun. But usually Greg wins. So just want to put that out there. I'm scrolling through the Discord to see exactly what he said, but I can't find it now. But anyways, so Greg is also going to be running a game for us because he's such a nice guy and because our D&D was canceled for this week. And we're going to be playing a game called City of Mist, a role-playing game called City of Mist. And it's nuts because there's like no stats and it's all very narrative and you have like these like tags almost for your character. So everyone's character has like two sides to them. It's almost like everyone's the Hulk in a way where like you have these two sides, but I mean, I guess it's not like the Hulk. But you have like a powerful entity of some sort that kind of lives inside you that can come out and be powerful and super powery. But then there's also you as a person. And so you can kind of use these tags from both of them, where if like if your alternate ego is so the example he used with me was Job, like from the Bible. And it was like some of his tags were like he can't be killed, and he can take a beating and stuff. And then his other alter ego is like a priest, and this priest has like this dark past, and so then one of the priest tags was called "Listen, son." ... And so these tags are not defined in a mechanical way; they're defined in a narrative way. So it'd be like, oh, so I'm gonna we're down in an alley and there's this lady getting mugged and we're gonna help her. And I could be like, oh, so I'm gonna go up and try to talk him out of it, and I'm gonna use listen, son, and I'm gonna be like, listen, son, you don't want to do this, blah blah blah, So like, it's not a dice roll, it's a narrative back and forth, and but then sometimes, I mean, there are rolls as well to see if listen, son, works or not. Anyways, it's gonna be a lot of fun. One shots are amazing, so we're gonna get in there. We're gonna do a single story and check out the system. I'm excited. I like learning new systems, so that's gonna be a lot of fun. And Greg knows what he's doing. he's a salty old RPGer from the days of yore. It's great. And
is he the one we hung out with before, or was that?
No, that was Dave.
Dave, okay.
Yeah, Dave was the one we played Mothership with. Greg was supposed to go, but he forgot, so he didn't come. And that's fine. All right, so we're gonna play City of Mist. Devin, you watched a thing, and I want to hear about it because it seemed, but according to the trailers, according to the actors, according to the director, according to the source material, should be an amazing movie. So, can you tell us about the Electric State?
Sure. Ben, have you seen it?
I watched the first 20 minutes of it last night before I fell asleep, so I think I'm about as able to talk about this as ever.
I have the RPG.
I don't want to have any spoilers or anything.
I don't mind spoilers.
Well,
I think I'll probably.
I don't think any major spoilers are necessary, really. Anyway, so I watched it. I heard about it from you guys. I think you guys had shared the trailer a couple months ago. It seems like it's been a little while.
Yeah.
And the trailer
we've been really
cool.
excited about it.
It looked pretty cool. It's got well-known actors. It's got the directors. The Russo brothers are known for like really big budget, good films. And then it came out just I don't know Thursday or Friday, and I had been seeing. I didn't seek them out because I didn't care that much, but on my news feeds had been seeing headlines for it about how bad it was. Which kind of intrigued me because a lot of the headlines, they weren't just like, oh, it's a disappointment. They were like, this is the worst thing ever, or, a huge bomb, or what the one I sent you guys was like, Netflix most expensive movie ever is a monumental disaster.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, if that's true, then that could be entertaining. If it's just one of those movies that's just so bad, you're like, man, what were they thinking? And it's not that at all. It's what I think maybe I would have expected initially, which is just an average movie that's disappointing because of like the elements involved and the cool aesthetic. And you're like, well, I wish it had more to it, more like some deeper thing to it. And maybe it feels like it has that deeper thing, but isn't really there. But my expectations were so low because of those headlines that I was able to just enjoy it and be like, oh, hey, I mean, that joke was funny. I didn't think it was an abomination of mankind. Like,
the algorithm has pegged you, man. They're like, how do we get Devin to click on this thing? Tell him that it's the worst thing ever, and he'll check it out.
Yeah, but but that's a pretty universal sentiment, and the rating on, at least on like Rotten Tomatoes, is like a 15%, which usually means there's a pretty big consensus, and that's the critic rating. There is a big difference between the critic rating and the audience rating. Yeah. So it seems to be kind of universally panned by critics, at least.
The current IMDb rating from 14,000 people is a 6.1 out of 10. So it's not awful, but there's probably a reason why it's on Netflix and they didn't push for it to be in theaters. Let's put it that way.
But that's the other side of it is I think maybe the expectations are too high from critics given all of those things. And possibly critics just want to criticize something for clicks. But and if I had seen, like you were just mentioning, if I had just seen reviews that were like, it's okay, I would have been like, oh, I'm not going to waste my time. That sounds boring. I already know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a thin plot, some action,
flashy
graphics, things, and it's gonna look good because the trailer makes it look good and kind of weird. That's if no one's seen the trailer, like kind of the selling point is the weird aesthetic, because it's like it's a humans versus robots type of thing, and the robots are all like robots that have been used for commercialization. Like they all look friendly and cartoony and things, and that's kind of the hook, I think.
Yeah.
I think if they had gone with like a different director who was more well known for satire, like someone who wanted to make a bigger point about consumerism, like because there are some very light themes of like, oh, technology is ruining mankind and stuff, but it's heavy-handed and not clever, which is fine.
Okay.
Again, that's
okay.
Once you know what you're getting, it's like, yeah, that's what I expected. But if you had like, I mean, I guess if you go way back, like, if you had Paul Verhoeven who was making, another RoboCop out of this, then you would have something magical. But that's not what they were going for.
A Verhoeven Electric State. That's interesting. So the Electric State is based on an art book with some very light narrative elements. Maybe not as light as I just made it sound. Simon Stålenhag.
Yeah. In here they call it a graphic novel, which is kind of the most appropriate use of that term that I've ever seen, given what the source material is. This is the same artist and writer who made Tales from the Loop, the original book there that was adapted into an excellent Amazon Prime
and I
series.
gotta watch it. I haven't seen that. That's probably more what I would be looking for.
Yeah. Well,
maybe.
From what I've heard, I don't know.
It's
Devin,
not
it was so awful, Devin. It was the most terrible abomination to mankind that everyone hates. There, now.
I gotta see this.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, it's a slow burn. It's not an action-packed series of stories in that. But kind of where Tales from the Loop, the graphic novel, was a series of stories based on each of these paintings made in this retro-futuristic town. This is actually, like, the graphic novel here is a coherent story. So they're actually adapting the entire story here in the film.
Oh, so the story in the film is the story from that art book?
It's an adaptation, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so all of the pieces of art, all the paintings have a portion of the story that's kind of a caption for the image, but they're kind of long, so it's like, well, this is a novel and it has graphics in it that illustrate the what's going on, but it does not have like speech bubbles
right.
or other things that you would expect from a graphic novel.
Well, I like to take things in role-playing game form, as you guys know recently. I have the role-playing game, The Electric State, based on all of the same stuff. And within it, there is a really interesting part called How We Got Here that tells the story of what, like, the first little subheading is the point of divergence, like where it diverts from our timeline, which was actually in the 70s. There was a civil war in 1975.
Oh, wow.
New nations. Then it talks about the neuronics. War brings rapid technological change from the first tribe to perfect a bow versus opponents with spears. Nothing moves human progress like war. And it just goes on to talk about those kinds of things. The end of the war, rebuilding Pacifica, center takes over. So if you want to know like more about the world, and I don't know how much there is in the movie that talks about the history. Sometimes in a flashy movie, they kind of gloss over that stuff. But if you wanted to dig into what all of these things mean, there is a book for it. There's a lot in this book about this. And the book is set up as a road trip as well. The role-playing game is get from point A to point B. Everyone has their own reasons for it. And it's a late 90s theme. Just like Tales from the Loop is like a 80s theme.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's got another book called Things from the Flood, which I thought was also 90s, but I could be wrong about that. Anyways, The Electric State. Thumbs up or thumbs down, Devin? Who would you recommend it for? Put it that way.
another one of those things that Jen and I were discussing as we were watching it. The whole like, what audience is this for? Because generally, it has more of a kids feel to it, like the simplicity of the plot, having a teenage girl and this robot hanging out. But there are some like scarier scenes with, there's some robots that are scavengers, and so they got like these weird, all these different pieces put together, and they're kind of scary. So it's kind of hard to say who the target audience would be, who I'd recommend it for. I mean, I hate to just say, well, it's there if you got nothing else to watch. Like, it's worth. It's not. It's not necessarily a bad movie. And if you are interested in, the general, the very well used idea of robots versus humans, and if you like the actors, Chris Pratt does his usual Chris Pratt job of being the comic relief. So he does that as well as he ever does.
Is he scruffy in this movie? I bet he's scruffy.
He is scruffy, yeah. He's got long hair, long like curly hair.
Oh,
not that long, but like longer than
long and
I've ever seen.
All
right. But also means he barely has he has a very slight backstory, and he's just there for the main character to hitch a ride with and go along on the journey. But
so he's the Han Solo in the hero's journey.
Yeah, like is in Jurassic World and
everything else.
Everything else he's ever been in.
I mean, I never saw Chris Pratt as like a star. Like I want him to be typecast because that's where he's good. Like whenever he's like the head of a movie, it kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of shrug. Like, I don't think he can hold it really. Also, he keeps popping up in ads with Marky Mark talking about, will you pray with me? And I'm just like, how do I stop getting these
Jen
ads?
mentioned that. I don't get those. She totally mentioned those last night, and I was like, no, I don't get that. I'm pretty sure my algorithm knows not to do that to me.
It knows that's not where its success lies. I don't know why it was trying with me. That's ridiculous.
Well, because you need Jesus.
It knows. The algorithm knows.
Yeah, Devin doesn't need Jesus, but Steven, I don't know.
This guy, we might be able to convert him.
You've tried everything else. I mean, come on.
Yeah, might as well try. Come on.
Might as well scrape the bottom of the barrel and give this a shot.
Give me a Bible role-playing game. Let's go.
No, it's funny. I haven't received any of that stuff, which like
your algorithm.
The
algorithm doesn't know what to do with you. You're not on social media enough.
That's probably true.
And that's
also you probably have like you're using all these weird like foreign sites that don't track your data or track it in a different way.
Right. That respect my privacy
stuff,
and
like...
my and my livelihood. Yeah.
The minute you leave the U.S., Ben, you're going to be just smothered with like Swedish ads for praying to Jesus. The algorithm's going to catch up with you in a hard way, man.
How nice that'll be.
Will you take a moment to pray with me? That was awful.
Well, no, I am definitely reconsidering my my view and stance on usage of social media, in that I'm realizing more and more that the work that we do, like the play that we do here on this show and the play that I do with my poetry and all this sort of stuff, that there's a lot more value in sharing it. And so I'm starting to dip my toes into regularly posting the cool things that are that we are doing. And,
Okay, look, record scratch, stop. You can't put things about toes on the internet. The algorithm will grab that and you're going to get some weird stuff, man. Don't say you're doing anything with your toes.
Even dipping them
into exactly.
Hey, listen, don't.
The great pool of life,
Yeah, that's what they call it. Where are you posting things then? Besides, I mean, you've got your website and things.
Yeah.
What else is happening? Anything?
So far it's just been like occasionally popping stuff onto Facebook. And then Yeah, and then like
shill for
scrolling
meta.
a little bit and going, wow, I need to stop scrolling here because I'm learning more about my neighbors.
Oh, I mean,
And I'm like, no. So I'm like, okay, how? Yeah. So it's an interesting sort of thing. I'm considering making it like a very one-sided thing where I put the information out there and I do not engage after that. I throw the grenade into the room and shut the door. And
well, the thing is, if you don't engage, you're throwing the grenade into an empty room. I mean, it's fine,
sure,
but like
yeah.
the algorithm craves the engagement. It's not going to push your stuff out for people to see unless there's some kind of interaction with it. I know way too much about the algorithm at this point. It's kind of haunting how much it controls our lives.
True. Well, so there's that part of sharing, but then there's also I actually submitted poetry to a journal this last week.
Awesome.
And so I'm kind of hoping to make that a regular occurrence too, win or lose on this, whether they accept it or not. The fact that I
you took the step,
submitted,
man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of big, and did put something out there that wasn't just something that like I'm in charge of making and have complete control over, you know, like my books or my publishing company. Yeah. So anyhow, that was, but I think that like a large part of it has been a reaction to the fact that we don't have a lot of time here, y'all.
No,
like
we don't.
Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. And most recently, I had to say goodbye to my dear friend Claude Garamond, the cat that I've had for almost 19 years, for almost half of my entire life.
That's crazy.
Right.
Our not apologies.
Sympathies.
Sympathies. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Devin, what's the word for when you're sorry for someone else's misfortune?
Schadenfreude?
There you go.
That's when you're happy for someone else's misfortune.
I know.
Well, I mean, for Devin, that's probably true because that cat has left him scarred.
Yeah. Do you still have the scar on your arm, Devin?
No, I'm fine.
Oh,
I wasn't even going to mention that, but I didn't want to make it about me.
In honor of the memory of Claude, you should get a tattoo of a scar on your arm where he attacked you that one time, because that was none of us will ever forget that, and I don't think you should either, Devin. So let's go.
I won't forget it.
Let's go get a tattoo.
We're in my old apartment. It's Christmas time, and Devin's drinking. He's got a cup of something, and he lifts it up, and whatever it is that he did, however he did it, it spooks my cat.
No.
So my cat run. Oh, okay. Well, what started it?
We were playing a game. We were in your living room. I had my arm like on the back of the couch, like lean back with my arm out, as just
as cool as a cucumber. That's Devin.
And the cat was sitting next to the door, and then we were playing a card game where I think people had just written the prompts themselves, and one of them was like the first out the door wins. And so as soon as that card was played, everybody except me, because I wasn't gonna make a damn fool out of myself. So everybody else like jumped up and ran towards the door, which freaked the cat the hell out, understandably. And it ran across the back of the couch, which is right where my arm was. And so it like tore across my arm, like putting scratches through my shirt, because I think I was actually wearing a long sleeve shirt, and into my arm.
Oh, geez.
Which
Sympathies for your shirt.
Yes.
That's so funny, because I remember it very differently. But like,
I mean, I could
like
be
the
wrong.
way I remember it.
I'll admit, I will question my own memories, but that is very clearly how I remember it.
I think that you probably, like, yes, your version of events is the canonical one. I'll go with that 100%. But I have such a memory of like Wolverine on the Statue of Liberty, clawing his way in a vertical 360. I remember that, and then having the cat jump directly into the Christmas tree behind the couch.
Your memory is slightly flawed, I think.
Possibly. Yeah, but mine's directed by the Russo brothers, obviously.
Oh yeah, much more entertaining to watch, your memory. Wow. So,
Oh man.
Claude, we bid you farewell over the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah, man.
It's losing a pet. I mean, I've talked about it on the website on the podcast as well when Charlie went. And that's probably something that is I would wager fairly common among people of our age that got pets in our 20s.
Oh yeah,
because
this is the time.
Time is up. Charlie lasted 16 years. Claude was 19 years. I mean, that's a long time. That took us from when we would say, "Hey, it's 10 o'clock. It's time to go out now," until now, where it's 10 o'clock. I can't believe I'm still awake. That is quite an expanse of time. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
There was something I saw a while back it's kind of like one of those touching things a bit, but it's like your pets see us as these immortal beings because because we're alive their entire lives. We're like elves to them.
Yeah.
If you all will open your Tolkien to page now. And it's kind of an interesting thing because we see them we get them as puppies or kittens and go through their entire lives until old age, and we to them are just here. That's crazy to think about. Anyways, we should move right along. This is a podcast about science and science fiction. I mean, we did talk about some sci-fi with Electric State. Just looking from the previews and from Devon's response, I imagine the movie would have been more hard-hitting if it was like an R rating, that you could like dive into some subject matter that what I see in the RPG book a little more serious. But it's Netflix and they want everyone to watch it. And so things are getting the edges are getting filed down for a larger audience. And I wonder if there's going to be another cut of the movie. I kind of doubt it. It doesn't seem like the Russos are those kind of people.
I don't. You would have to change it a lot to make it an R. Like not just add like blood, but I mean the characters. You could. I don't think that would work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Before we get on to our future or now section, I wanted to take a second and talk about the ads in Windows 11. Because we've mentioned it a few times on this podcast, how when you have Windows 11, there's a little thing in your taskbar in the bottom left corner, and when you hover over it, a big window pops out, and it's like, here's all the news that you didn't ask for. It like tricks you because it's like a little weather icon. You're like, I want to know more about the weather. And it's like, here's all the headlines, and you can try to unsubscribe, but we're going to show you anyway. There's a setting in your taskbar menu to just turn that off.
Oh, nice.
So,
does it turn off the button as well,
yeah.
or does it just turn off? Okay.
No, the button's gone. If you want to know, like that for me, I was like, do I want to turn this off? Because it's nice to see that the weather's there in the corner. But then I have my watch and my phone and like anything else to see what the weather is.
And a window that looks outside.
And the best weather sensing thing that I ever saw was like outside of some shack, and I don't even know where it was. It was written in English though. And it was just a giant rock hanging from a string, and it was like it was like all this weather. Like, is it raining? Or if the rock is, and it was like wet, then it's raining. If the rock is dry, then it's it was like if the rock is dark, it's nighttime. It was just like, just look at the rock, and that'll tell you what's happening. And so I feel like that is a better source of weather than all these things. Anyways, so yeah, you go in your taskbar, you can turn that off, and it disappears forever until you want to turn it back on. So mine's gone now.
Right on.
Happy days.
Good.
Happy
That's nice.
days. All right, let's move right along to future or now. This is not going to be a tight hour, guys. We're already half an hour in, and we failed.
I'll make mine very quick, honestly.
All right, well, tell us, what do you have? Is it future or is it now, Ben?
Well, it's a little bit of both, y'all. Okay. Today I'm bringing to you a project that's being worked on called SEN, which is kind of the idea here is it's like a desktop for your thoughts. SEN is short for, sorry, I'm looking for where, like, I don't want to get this wrong. And now I've got to scroll a lot throughout this entire thing. But you know what? I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's semantic.
Wait, so SEN, semantic, is that what it stands for? No.
Semantic something.
Okay. I'll look for it.
Yeah. Okay, very good. But the basic idea here is that there's what is the problem we're trying to solve? Well, hey, you may have noticed that in a lot of desktop computing, what we have is an app-centered model. The idea is that you open up an app, you do things in that app. There are files that are being modified and everything, and then you're done with it. You close the app, you move on. Well, really, what if we had a data-centered model for computing, where the main bits of information that are important to you are the data on your computer, and an app needs to, like, you open up an app to access that data, but that data can be in any different app. You know, like if you've got a text file, it's not just something that is stuck within a database inside of Apple's Notes app. It is something that perhaps a note-taking app could access, but really if the app goes away tomorrow, you still have all that data that could theoretically be modified and viewed in another app.
Wait, so is this like taking away extensions, like file extensions, and just saying, look, this OS can just see all of it?
It's actually an inversion of that. We're leaning way harder into extensions.
Oh my gosh, I completely misunderstood then. So this, it is the opposite of what you said.
Semantic extensions here. The idea are that, like, and mostly it's because of the fact. Now, Steven, like, your idea works great if everything is a text file, but not everything is a text file. Some files are photos, or they are music files, or they are complicated branching, like a Fruity Loops music making MIDI file, like sure. All of that there, so the idea here is that if you have additional amounts of extensions these semantic extensions, which are metadata that you'd put onto a file and have access to, that perhaps that gains you a bit more context for the ability to hand a file from one app or operating system to another. Right now, kind of the current state of it is that extensions and attributes that are added to a lot of files in a lot of different operating systems are not portable. Like if you move them from one thing to another, you export it, you do anything to it, one of the first things that's going to be thrown out in that is all of the metadata that an app adds to it.
Okay.
So this idea here is a method of fixing the desktop infrastructure in order to have a local desktop-based solution for all of your files that better preserves metadata, and then also, because it's metadata, the cross-linking that can add context to your thoughts on your computer. Sorry.
Okay.
But that's about it.
So what does that mean?
What does that mean? So this guy,
like
what
he's
doing is he's taking these ideas and he's creating a tool that can work with it in the Haiku operating system, which we can get into that another time. But Haiku is an operating system based on BOS, not based on Linux or on Windows or anything else. It is its own other thing that got pretty close to having a metadata sort of approach that follows these ideas. They got there back in the 90s. It's just, BOS folded, and Haiku is the open source version of that continuing to move along.
Okay.
Yeah. So perhaps in the near future, there could be a more on this as it develops.
Okay. Is this something you would want in your life?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been playing around a lot with Obsidian, which is a note-taking app, but it is just a way of looking at a folder full of text files on your computer. So it like having that is really nice. It means that any app can just look at these files. The things that are really great about Obsidian are that you can link the like you would a web document. You could create a link very easily from one file to another or to no file at all. And the magic sauce here is that when you make a link like that, there's a backlink made. Where you go, you actually see a list of things that link to that.
Right.
So what I've been really enjoying using Obsidian for is, let's just say I've got a folder that's got a book project I'm working on. And in this folder, I've got a lot of different things. I've got like images that are going into the book. I've got like original text that I'm putting into there. I've got a bunch of different drafts of the designs I've done, all this cruft. But really, there's only like one or two files in there that I'm actively working on. Everything else is stuff that's handled back and forth between it. So in my Obsidian vault, because I can link to any file on my computer, I actually just just say, well, hey, here's my project. Here's all the notes I have about it, the context I have for that project or that book I'm designing. And then right at the top, I say, here's a link to the folder. You click it and you'll open up the folder. Here's a link to the book file. Click it, it opens up an Affinity publisher. And then a couple other things like here's a link to the contact I have for the main author in the email service I use. So I click that and it automatically opens up to show me all of the emails I've gotten from that person. So stuff like that is so powerful for me right now because it's a bunch of different things that helps me to put like context. So I'm only looking at the stuff that I really care about. And I can kind of ignore everything else that's useful in other contexts.
That sounds great, man. I've used Obsidian as well, and it's powerful when it comes to like for the thing I used it for, of course, RPGs. I use it to set up the cipher system thing that we've been playing occasionally. Nice. We need to get back to, but I have a whole like the world. In this RPG, I used Obsidian and all these links back and forth to be like this, to link together locations in the city and then the people and the organizations that are at those locations, and so you can I can click through per se very easily to like see what is where without having like to flip through pages of a notebook. It's very good at those things.
Yeah, and what's really nice is that in the future, if and when Obsidian collapses, you still have all of that data. They're just files. They're just plain text files that you've been able to do magic with so far, and you will still have access to in the future. And so it's what if there was an operating system that allowed me to put more context around what it is I'm doing? What if I didn't have to go into Obsidian to go, oh, hey, here's my page of all the things I'm keeping track of here and constantly updating and changing? What if that was like at an operating system level? That's kind of what excites me about this.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. So more on this as it develops?
Yes, indeed. Okay. You can come to good old to Benny Boy and get a little bit of that.
Hey, Daddy Ben, can you tell me about operating systems? I need to go to sleep. I mean, I'm very interested. All right, let's move ourselves right along. Devon's going to tell us about a Pixar movie. No, he's going to tell us about something else. What is it, Devon? Is it future or is it now?
Well, I guess the research now, but it's about something that's very old. So first off, I haven't talked about this already, have I? Because I saw an article about this a couple months ago and was going to talk about it, and I don't think I did.
No.
And then this article is a current article from Popular Mechanics, released on March 14th, but it's the same. I think it's the exact same story. So it is about.
Was there more on this because it developed?
No, actually, I don't think so. If I've already talked about it, let me know.
Okay.
It's about Luca. I don't think I have, because I think.
No, because I would have made that joke, and I remember making that joke.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too, because so it's Luca, Luca. First off, I've seen parts of the Pixar movie called Luca, so I don't know if this is a reference to that, or if the movie is a reference to this, because what Luca means scientifically is last universal common ancestor. I know that in the movie the character is like a mix of human and fish, maybe other species, so it does kind of play into the idea of evolution. So maybe they don't mention it overtly in the movie, but maybe they chose that name because of the scientific connection to evolution.
It could be like just a clever naming convention,
Yeah.
but the movie itself doesn't have anything to do with that kind of stuff. It's a little fish boy, but when he comes out of the water, turns into a human boy and does human stuff, and then jumps back in the water and transforms back and forth. So like maybe that's kind of where it started. Pixar movies have a long development cycle, so maybe the movie when it was first named and the characters like it had more to do with that stuff, and they just slowly evolved away from it.
Well, it could just be a clever reference. I mean, they could have just thought, oh, hey, it's Italian because it takes place in Italy, and it happens to have a really cool reference to science. So, as I mentioned, it means last universal common ancestor, which means that all life on Earth, once, as we all know, shared common ancestors, and you go back far enough, there's one common ancestor that all life came from. Mm-hmm. And whatever that is, whatever organism that is, it's given the name Luca because that is the last universal common ancestor. And what they're doing is they're trying to figure out, well, when did Luca first exist? Because that kind of pins down when life started, or at least from there, we can try to go backwards and see, well, how did this one organism develop on Earth? And so what they did was they measured the rate of mutations in the genetic code, and they used a formula to go back to see how many years it would have been that this was present on Earth, and it went back all the way to 4.2 billion years ago, which is very close to when the Earth was formed. There's only 400 million years after the creation of Earth. We had Luca. So it only took 400 million years, whatever process there was for abiogenesis occurred within those 400 million years, and we had life on Earth.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. They don't talk about, the implications for life on other planets in this, but, if you think about it, that wasn't that long. And so when we're trying to figure out what the probability of there being other life in the universe, I would think that would also give us an indication that it's probably pretty likely, as long as the conditions are right for life to develop, it probably will develop. But until we have another data point, we can't say that for sure. Let's see. So the common ancestor of all extant cellular life is evidenced by the universal genetic code, machinery for protein synthesis shared chirally of the almost universal set of 20 amino acids and use of ATP as a common energy currency. As such, our understanding of Luca impacts our understanding of the early evolution of life on Earth. Was Luca a simple or complex organism? What kind of environment did it inhabit, and when? They've also figured out that it likely had a rudimentary system of where is it?
Like an immune system.
System, yeah.
Yeah.
Not satisfied with just learning its age, the team took things a step further and retraced the physiological characteristics of living species to understand what Luca must have been like 4.2 billion years ago, and the results have some surprising answers. The scientists estimate that while Luca was a simple prokaryote, it likely had an immune system, meaning it was already fighting off primordial viruses. So that immune system, it had to have something to fight off.
So cool.
And it had to live in an environment where it could, live with whatever else was there. If you think about, if you had one living organism today, or even just one species, if you have multiples of it, you have to have an entire ecosystem for it to live. It's clear that Luca was exploiting and changing its environment, but it is unlikely to have lived alone. The researcher said its waste would have been food for other microbes like methogens that would have helped to create a recycling ecosystem. So, yeah. Wow. They still don't understand how life evolved from its very origins to the early communities of which Luca was a part. Further studies will need to dive deeper into the primordial history and uncover exactly how you, me, and every other living thing came to be. There you go.
Wow. Yeah. That's something. I mean, it's cool that they went on to the whole immune system thing, because if there's going to be one thing, there's going to be other things, and they's going to fight. And so developing an immune system is a great way to defend yourself.
Those other things, depending on what they are, I mean, viruses aren't necessarily life. And it's funny because I recently saw a diagram of like the tree of life, all life on Earth, because there was like a thing for, you could buy like a poster for your kid's room. And one thing about it was it went back to Luca, but it had a separate box that was not connected to the tree of life that was viruses. And I didn't look into, I should have looked into it more for this, but I'm curious what the theory is on that. Because if viruses, if there was one instance of life starting, of abiogenesis, which it seems so unlikely to occur that it seems like it would just have been once and then it took hold. But wouldn't have viruses have come from that too? They are a self-replicating mechanism. And if not, does that mean there was some separate process that brought viruses into existence? That seems unlikely, but I don't know the relationship there. And if there is something earlier where viruses split off, wouldn't you push Luca back even further? Or is there some state of like the chemical process where we don't say it's life, like it's self-replicating DNA or RNA? It's not to the point where we'd call it life. It is still abiogenesis, and that even at that very, very early point, there was some kind of split off into viruses and then off into everything else that then developed into life as we know it. I guess you wouldn't call that the last universal common ancestor, because we're still just talking about a mix of chemicals. I don't know what the theory is going back that far, because you'd think that even viruses or anything, you go back far enough, we're still all connected somehow, because we all use the very most basic process of gene replication, even if viruses have to, use other cells, other living things in order to do it. I don't know. I don't know how that fits in.
I don't know either, man. That's very interesting, though, because, you would think that you just kind of take it one step back further, but then it's just like soup, right? It's just It's just a bunch of when the in Prometheus, when the big soft man drank the stuff and then melted.
Q puts his hand in it and like has the goop on his hands.
Who does?
Goop. Q.
Oh, Q. Oh.
Does he do that? Does he touch it? I know him and Picard are standing over the primordial soup.
Yes, he puts his hand in it. He in All Good Things, the series finale of The Next Generation, he does.
Q needs to get his hand out of there. All right, we're gonna take a break. Get your Q out of my life. That was really good, Devin. Well done. We are gonna take ourselves a little break. I'm gonna get some more coffee because this is hard. And when we come back, we are doing our book club. We're going on to the Planet Opera in To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. So I hope you've read and done your homework. So we'll be right back.
While you're listening to the Science Faction Podcast, you can get a lot more information about the Science Faction Podcast and additional content from us at Patreon. patreon.com/sciencefactionpodcast. Go there. Don't be square.
And we're back.
Heyo.
What's up?
Yo.
And a big thank you to our patrons, Renee and Josh. Thanks. And if anybody else is interested in hanging out, chatting with us, figuring out when we're going to be on Walkabout Mini Golf again, hop onto the Discord and, join us. You can become a member of our Discord by being a free patron at patreon.com/sciencefactionpodcast.
I haven't mentioned it to you guys, and I probably should, that I want to revisit our Patreon page and what we offer at what tiers and all that. So we're gonna do that soon.
Right on.
I want to make things a little more affordable, and like not only that, but like the tiers, some things that we can offer. Like I know now what we actually can offer and not offer, and we need to adjust some of that stuff. And then after we adjust that stuff, we need to record some more sounders, guys, because ours are old. And so all of that, look forward to those things in the near future, listeners.
I probably still had hair when we recorded those.
It was many years ago. Yeah. Your scalp was like, more on this as it develops. And then,
not anymore.
Not anymore. All right, let's get on to our book club. Next week, Votum.
Yeah, we wrap up this the entire story with the trip to the planet Votum, as part of To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. But this week, we're going to the planet Opera, y'all. And
yes. So To Be Taught If Fortunate. So we're going along in our book club. Every week we're visiting a different planet. We're on planet number 3. So we had an icy planet, we had a planet chock full of life, and now we have a water planet.
I mean, I think it's very important to note an icy planet full of wonder for all of the creatures that were animated underneath the ice, and a very lush super Earth that had a crazy amount of genetic diversity in Mirabilis, the second planet that we went to, and now we go to a planet, an ocean world.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think? Like what? Yeah, like what?
I mean,
I don't know. Do you want to describe it?
It was so. This was cool because it was kind of a left turn, because they get there, and yes, it's an ocean planet, but it's more like a storm planet.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, oh yeah, there's some islands, and they're like, the one we're gonna land on doesn't exist anymore, and it's like, oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, because they're dealing with information at least 18 years out of date.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this system looked very volatile with its storms and waters and everything, and so they just go, let's just land anyway. What's the worst that could happen? I tell you what, it's rats. The rats get them. So they, I'm skipping and feel free to rewind if I'm forgetting points, but they land.
Sure.
They land on a rocky piece of wherever, and they're like, "This is fine."
Like in some shallows, they're like, okay, it's going to be about 3 feet of water. We won't be able to expand out our habitation or our labs at this place because of the water. But we can kind of stay confined to the ship and do whatever we need to here. We're sure that the storm is going to break. They're hoping to spend another 4 years here, as they did 4 years on Mirabilis and 4 years on Acor before that.
Yeah.
They make it 4 months. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, they don't make it very far. So the whole thing is they land and they're like, oh man, it's super rainy out there and this is crazy and there's wind and all that. And then there's noises outside the hull. And it turns out that there is at least one organism that lives on this planet that likes to crawl onto unknown spaceships and just sucker their little faces to them, like the Minox in Empire.
Yeah.
And then there's more of them, and then there's more of them, and they cover the entire ship, and
they shriek every every so often, so much so that it is like no one on the crew gets more than an hour's sleep at any one time.
Yeah.
For 4 months.
This planet was an exercise in mental health, which at the end it was like, let's get out of here.
Once they have the opportunity, like the slightest break in the weather, they're like, let's go.
Yeah, and they jetted out of there as fast as possible. The majority of the story was pretty much, if you're isolated and in this type of environment where you can't rest and there appears to be no hope, how do you survive that? And then they barely get out alive. It feels like one of the guys almost completely shuts down into his room. Another guy just keeps screaming and yelling at these things and pounding on the glass to get him to go away. The team leader just keeps doing system checks over and over and over again.
Yeah, looking for you kind of learn she's looking for any excuse for them to leave early by seeing if these creatures are doing any kind of long-lasting damage to the ship. She's like, I think that they can, can they get through? Are they going to damage the ship? Find any evidence of it, and we're out of here, is kind of the unspoken thing that's going on with her.
And really, it was just like these things. They don't come to a set conclusion, other than they just kind of climb up on stuff. That's just what they do. They're not being malicious. They're not trying to attack. They just, oh, look, a rock, let's climb on it, and that's all that they were doing. They're just living their life, and just ruining these people's lives.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that's really kind of the, like, a lot of this was a test of the ethical approach that they've been taking to being in these environments, right? Because they so desperately want to observe. That's why they're there, but they want to also do it in such a way that is ethically sound. But what happens when you deal with life that just is not compatible,
right,
with our innate sense of danger? And that's these rats, which they're called rats, but they look more like slugs with like crazy teeth on one side that they just suction onto, and then they scream out of like dozens of little perforations along the outside of their backs.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah. And when they finally, like, a few members of the crew carry around binoculars with them, because whenever like some of the rats kind of move a little bit and give a very small break in like on a window, they use the binoculars to finally look outside, because they can't. It's just covered with all of these. And what they've seen is what they originally thought were rocks are just, they're rocks, but they're covered with these things too.
Yeah.
But I love this quote. "It was not a cozy storm, a curl up with a book and blanket storm. This was weather that resented us."
Yeah, they had no business being there.
No.
So they leave. They finally
leave.
They're keeping an eye on the weather, and finally they're like, look, and really it was the wind more than the rain, because they could operate in rain. It was the wind, because they have to fly out of there. There was a slight break in the storm, and they were like, let's go. And they went through the author, Becky Chambers, went through great pains to tell us how they were not being careful anymore. Like they were just throwing stuff in bins. They were not going through checklists. They were just like, let's get out of here. Yeah. And to me, that spoke of the crew's mental health. Like it had deteriorated at those 4 months to just like a survival state almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as they lift it off, here's another great quote. "We were no longer riding a spacecraft, but a tiny bird caught in a vast pit of tar, beating her wings so hard she risked leaving a piece of herself behind."
Is that foreshadowing? Did they leave a very important piece behind?
Well, let's finish the chapter because
all right. I want to Devin, you talk a bit. What did you think about this? I mean, we're not done with where the story took us, but so far, what'd you think?
What I think, it was interesting.
Gosh.
You never know what you're gonna get. I mean, there's aliens, there's barnacles. Like you're
barnacles.
You're intruding on another ecosystem. You don't know what to expect, and so it makes sense that there'd be some kind of crazy alien that just isn't trying to harm anything. It just does what it's used to doing. Story-wise, like we were saying, when they're in space, I think the main character goes to check the outside of the hull, but she does it without a tether.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a psychological thing again, where she wants to feel free, but it's extremely dangerous, and everyone else is telling her that she needs to get back in the ship because it's really dangerous.
And she finally does. But she had that brush with the infinite unknown, and just any kind of respite from the previous 4 months. She flirted with taking that too far.
So when there was the one character, and forgive me, I don't remember everyone's name.
Ariadne?
No, the guy that was stuck in his room.
Chikandi.
Yeah, he was in a dark place, it appeared. And so Ariadne, the main character that we're getting all this from, she would repeatedly visit him and talk to him about what he was going to do when they got home. Like trying to get him out of his depressive state, it seemed. And to try and, spark a little hope there of this is not going to last forever. What are you going to do next? Look forward to the future. And when she just left the ship, when they got back to space, he was the one that did that with her and talked her back into thinking properly and coming back into the ship. So it was a nice little bit of symmetry between those two characters there.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Because, she was not doing well. she had to get out of there and was not being safe. All right. So that was Opera. Just an awful place. It's no good.
Absolutely awful. There is a respite here coming up here, but I think that what I love is in this story is the diversity of all the different planets they go to. And just also very grounded feeling. Everything here feels it's not magic. It feels like it would very much be kind of a realistic depiction of what these travelers would experience. And mind you, at this point, they also have lost all communication with Earth.
Oh yeah.
And the framing of this is a communication back to Earth,
right?
And to ask a question. And so,
So next week
there's more. There's going to be more next week.
All right.
Because, I don't know if I should spoil anything, but
no spoilers.
The crew of the Lockheed Six, they're heading to this other planet, and it is different than all of the others.
Oh, good.
What will they find?
Is it a lava planet? Are there going to be fighting Jedis on it? That'd be cool.
It is not a lava planet with Jedis.
I'm out, guys. Speaking of which, sort of, that trailer for Andor season 2 is looking mighty good.
Yes, it is. Agreed.
What a time to have a fantastical story about a revolution against a fascist government. What a time. What a time. I'm going to be watching Andor season 2 taking notes. That's what I'm going to do. That looks really good.
For sure.
And it's there's going to be 4 different time periods.
Interesting.
It's going to be skipping forward up until right before Rogue One, the movie Rogue One.
Cool.
Gotcha.
So yeah, from where we left it, and from the trailer, I mean, we can see K2SO. There's director Krennic's back in the mix. These characters that, like, when you watch Rogue One, it's like these are amazing characters, but then, like, spoilers, everyone's dead by the end, you know? And it's like, oh man, those are good characters, and we'll never see them again. Somehow Palpatine returned. Like, they found a way to bring these characters back. But man, like, director Krennic, what a great character. And so it'll be interesting to see, because they throw him up there in the trailer to be like, look what we did. But I'm interested to see how much he's involved with the story, really. Because all that we know about him is he was on the, getting that Death Star built. He was in the Bad Batch a little bit. But it was just kind of part of a round table of other leaders. There wasn't like a big reason for him to be there. Other than to show, like, oh, here's all the Imperial higher ups, like, so they got Tarkin and other guys. I don't remember everyone's name anymore. I'm getting too old for all these Star Wars names. I remember back junior high so many years ago, I could rattle off the names of starships that, just all this stuff. And nowadays, it's the Empire guys. Like, there's a bunch of them. Anyways, Andor season 2 looking good.
Yeah. What
else? There was something else that was on. The Spider-Man thing.
Yeah,
that's
right. You and I finished watching that.
Yeah,
Steven.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Did you see The Watcher?
Oh heck yeah, we saw The Watcher. Yeah, actually, Nicole was like, "Look at The Watcher! Oh my gosh!" And
so I think that for me is evidence that I was right in my assumption or my guess that this was originally just an episode of What If that they decided to make a whole series out of.
Yeah, and how delightful that was. No notes.
Yeah.
They did great.
It was a fantastic little cartoon. Yeah.
And oh boy, the circular nature of the storyline.
Yeah, it's a time travel show. What?
It's a time travel show.
When that bit was happening there at the end, I was like, oh, what? That's amazing. They threw that in there. Yeah, there's some time travel-y bits. But then I was like, wait, is this a bootstrap paradox? What's happening here? But it's not. But it feels like it is. But
it does kind of feel like it is. Yeah.
Like, where does the spider power come from? The spider power comes from combining Spider-Man's DNA with a spider after he was already Spider-Man, but then the spider goes back in time and bites him to create the spider DNA. So maybe it is a bootstrap paradox now that I'm thinking about it.
I guess so.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's fun. It was a fun show. It is a fun show, and I hope they make more of them because that was good.
And because they definitely set a lot up with the next season. Specifically, well, I mean, just with everybody, with who May goes to visit in prison.
Yep.
And then also with where Tombstone's characters is heading.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That we got Doc Ock.
Lonnie Linking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like continuing
Nico.
With Doc Ock.
Yeah. Like it gave all of the characters have this like trajectory that they were on, and that final episode was like, and here's where they're gonna go if we get a season 2.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. It's a good show. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. We got to stop talking, but Daredevil, Born Again.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Did you guys watch it?
Yes.
Cool.
We watched the first episode. Jen didn't really like it, so maybe I'll watch it on my own. But yeah, I watched the first episode.
Yeah, it's more of that. Wait, the first episode or the first 2 episodes? Just the first episode?
Just the first episode.
Okay. Because the first 2 were what premiered. But It's the original pitch didn't have those returning characters at the beginning, and I'm glad that they put them back in, because it really helps to link back to what came before.
Gotcha.
To kind of give.
Well, we watched a recap of the the Netflix shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized we hadn't even watched the last season of Daredevil on Netflix.
Same here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
haven't
just
seen
noped
that.
out.
I think I finished with the Defenders, so I don't think I even watched
that's true.
the Punisher.
We watched the first season of the Punisher, which I liked, and I had planned on watching the second season, but just never did.
Well, yeah. After they announced that everything was being canceled, it was canceled, and it was being kind of pushed farther away from the MCU, which at that point was just popping off. And so it was like, why continue? Does this even matter? But yeah, that third season of Daredevil looks like it was pretty darn good. And it kind of, the dangling plot lines from that were kind of wrapped up in the first 2 episodes of this. And then it goes in its own direction, which is great. The end of the 3rd episode is like the completion of the opening arc, and it's like, okay, now with the 4th episode we're going to start up like everything's in place now we can move forward with the story. It kind of took its time to kind of settle things in, and I like how people were complaining about Fisk becoming mayor of New York, and how they're like, oh, Daredevil Born Again's woke and being and mirroring politics, and like, actually, regardless of who won this last election, this is what happened in the comics. So
yeah, and then on top of that, this has also been in, this show has been being made for a bit longer,
many years.
So,
Well, and just from the first episode, Fisk, that was maybe one of the problems I had with it. I know, obviously, in our world, anybody could be elected anything, as we know.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the charisma to get elected. Like, he's so weird. I think people would just be like, what's wrong with that guy? Like,
well, they kind of showed that there were no other real contenders for the mayor. Yeah. And I think, like, in the comics, it was a larger storyline. His slogan, Fisk can fix it, was like a double entendre, like that he's going to fix the election, like how he fixes things as a mobster, and so like his slogan wasn't just, oh, he can fix New York, but he's going to fix the election. And so like well,
I guess I also expected there to be more about his campaign and that, like, kind of explain how he gets elected, but I think they just wanted him to be the mayor for the show, and they're like, well, we got to just spend the first episode getting him to be mayor, and then that's when the show actually starts, because they didn't seem to care a whole lot how he became mayor.
No, I mean, it's not a show about politics. So they definitely glossed over that part, and it was a longer thing in the comics, as it always is. But like, I'm okay with that, because I want to see a show about a blind lawyer beating people up, and that's okay with me. What they're doing in the show is showing the parallels between those two characters, and they're both from the same sorts of upbringings with angry fathers, and they're both skirting the law in their own way. And there's a lot of these different connections between Fisk and Murdoch, and I like that. And there's also, and as you'll see in the next couple episodes, Devin, there's a lot more allusions to the Punisher. And we know Frank Castle's going to be in the story, but it's great because you're going to see, and this isn't a major spoiler, but you see some cops that have like Punisher tattoos. And that's great because in real life, that's like a whole, like the Punisher, skull shape, but like with the American flag behind it, is like a big cop thing for some reason. And it's like the real Punisher would be like, what? And so within the show, we're going to actually get to see that, like how the Punisher reacts to the way that people perceive the Punisher. And I'm excited to see what they do with that, because like how meta they're going to be with it. anyways, that's going to be fun. All right. There's book club.
Yeah.
I mean, that was another great bit from Becky Chambers. And so, like we said before, Votum next week. That's going to wrap that up, and then we're going to have to figure out what to read next. So let us know, listeners. I don't do a lot of call to actions, but let us know if you liked us just doing a short story more, or doing more of a novella where we do chapters per week, and maybe we'll shift or adjust accordingly. So let us know. With that, I think we've got another one in the can, boys.
We did it.
We did it.
Cool.
Good job, us. So let's wrap it up. Devin, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Nope.
You're just waiting for that Lego set to come in. Like, yeah.
Just counted down the hours.
Come on, where's that Lego? I got to build a giant thing. The kids, the wife, they're going to be gone. I get to build.
Hopefully. I hope everything works out for the best for everybody. I think, that's kind of a bummer when plans don't quite work out. So
it happens.
Ben hopes for the best. I hope for struggle and strife, and to come out stronger in the end. That's what I hope for.
All right.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, no. I
think there's been enough strife and struggle lately.
I'm going to struggle this coffee down.
We can have some comfort, maybe. That might be nice.
Oh, this was not a curl up with a book and blanket storm. This weather.
That's true.
Ben, do you have any last words?
So a man goes to a party. He gets thirsty. He immediately goes over to the bowl of fruit juice and gets a drink. There is no punchline.
Good night, everybody.
This has been the Science Faction Podcast. Tweet to the host at SciFact Podcast. Email them at sciencefactionpodcast@gmail.com and visit sciencefactionpodcast.com for more episodes.